to see you all tonight. Thank you for joining us. Tonight we're going to study the portion of בהעלותך. בהעלותך, it means in Hebrew, and when you shall raise. It's the Hebrew words are בהעלותך את הנרות, and when you shall raise the candles. That's the meaning of the portion. And we're going to study what it's all about, what the candles are all about, and as we always study the codes, what are the codes behind the word candles and how that pertains to us. Before I start, I would like to share with you briefly our mission statement, why we do this study of the Zohar. The Zohar means in Hebrew splendor, and the Zohar was written 2,000 years ago to decipher the codes of what people call the Bible, which I don't like the word, I don't like the name of the Bible, but I like to call it the Torah, which means in Hebrew the guidance, the instruction. So the Zohar was written for the purpose of removing pain and suffering from the world. So our purpose of sharing this study with you from Mount Shasta is to do our share to remove ignorance, remove pain and suffering from the world of humans and non-humans. And we strongly advocate for the removal of pain and suffering of animals in particular, because we believe, from the best of our understanding and from studying the Zohar, that pain and suffering are something that not only humans experience but all sentient beings. And as long as humanity is harming, torturing, killing, eating animals on this planet, we are still very far away from progression and really live up to what we call the human being. So I hope that this study inspires you, if you have not yet been inspired to embrace plant-based food, not just from a place of fashion or hype or anything like that, but from a place of true understanding that this is not the path of compassion to all living beings. So with that said, I would like to start our class today, and let's talk about a little bit about the Zohar. Talks about raising the candles, בהעלותך את הנרות. Now the first question comes to mind when you say when you raise the candles. How come you not say when you shall light the candles? Since when we need to raise the candles or elevate the candles? Obviously we know that everything that is written in Torah, nothing is by coincidence. I would like to understand what is the meaning behind that. And then the Zohar is talking about lights that illuminating in front of the menorah. It says I'm not going to repeat the Hebrew text, but it describes lights that are in front of the menorah. And menorah, for those of you who are familiar or not familiar with menorah, is that what we call the candelabra in English, with 7 lights, one in the middle, which is slightly higher than the others. Menorah means a candelabra. So then it talks about there's lights, or there are illuminations that are in front of the menorah. And the thing is, again, you might ask, how come you talk about lights in front of the menorah? The light should be part of the menorah. So it looks like there's another kind of mysterious terminology by the Zohar, which we'll also understand and study a bit deeper today. Now, the menorah, for those of you, again, familiar a little bit with the Kabbalistic or Jewish terms, the menorah represents, more than anything else, the temple. In the temple that used to be in Jerusalem, there used to be a menorah. And that menorah was lighted, it was illuminating all the time using oil. But we know that in Kabbalah, that anything that we have in physicality is a representation, or it's an embodiment of something non-physical. And we know that the menorah, it represents the system of the 7 that we talk about pretty much in each and every class. From the tree of life, we have the 10 Sefirot, and then we have the lower 7 Sefirot, which represent our reality. That's why we have 7 days a week, etc. That's a system that we are part of. Now, the menorah represents that system that we are, that's a kind of energetic construct that we are part of. And what we learn here, that there is some very, very big significance in the menorah. And pretty much in every Kabbalist or Jewish writing or symbology, you will always find the menorah. Even if you go to the gate of Titus in Rome, that big gate that with an arch in the middle, you see the menorah. When the Israelites were expelled and Jerusalem was destroyed, there is a big I think it's engraving, or I don't know if it's the right term, but there's an engraving of the Israelites living in the temple carrying the menorah. So there's obviously a very big significance. But again, as always, we're never here to discuss historical events or talk about physical things. We want to understand what is it pertaining to us today, and that's what it's going to be focusing on. Now let's do a quick review about what the menorah stands for. Okay, now the menorah, like we said, it's made of 7 lights. Why 7 lights? Because, like we said, we live in a system of the 7 days a week, etc. Now, the system of the 7 is a part of a bigger construct that we call the tree of life, that is made of 10 levels of illumination, or 10 levels of emanations of light. And why we are always talking about this construction, and what is it really the importance of understanding? We know that there is a certain source that illuminates or shares or feeds our physical reality with energy. That source is endless. It's not something we can define, it's not something we can measure, it's not something we can quantify. Now, in order for us to bring that endless energy into this reality, we need to reduce the source by what we call, like if you compare electricity, by a system of transformers, like filters, or in Kabbalah called masachim. Masach means a screen. Now, those screens that reduce the emanation of the light into our reality, they're what we call the Sefirot, what in the English translated into spheres. Sefirot means counting, etc. Now, the system of the Sefirot is what really shows us how, and what we study in the Kabbalah is to understand how the light is coming down into our reality. Now, if we compare again in terms of electricity, if this is the power station where the consumer, there is a flow of electricity, there is a flow of light, of certain current of energy. Now, if you, in your home, if you have a light bulb and you would like to turn on the light, the energy that comes from the power station is there. All you have to do is turn on the light, turn on the switch. So why we are discussing the term in terms of the illumination of the candles? Because we want to understand that if we are lacking certain illumination in our lives, certain light, and light in Kabbalah means pleasure, that you are deriving certain fulfillment from this reality, that's what they call light. It's not like enlightenment, what people translate. Enlightenment can be a certain one expression of that, what we call enlightenment, but I think, sorry, our dogs, so we're going to take care of that. So when we talk about the illumination that are part of the system, the illumination is always there. Now, if we say, how come I feel a certain lack in my life, I have some goal I would like to achieve, certain fulfillment, and of course the fulfillment always is something we experience within the framework of our body, through the sensations, through the feelings. How do we know that we are fulfilling something, that we are attaining the goal? And then there's the reaction that we feel in our nerve system of the pleasure. So if we are compare that, or this electric current system into our lives, we have certain things that we maybe been desiring to bring into our lives, and we have yet to receive that fulfillment or that light. So the question is, how come it's not there? If the electricity or the current always flows from the universe, and the universe is always giving, how come it's not been revealed into our lives? So the simple answer that Kabbalah answers in terms of electricity, you have to turn on the switch. Like if somebody calls you, if you receive a very, very important phone call, in order for you to receive this information, you have to actually answer the call. Okay? So answering the call or turn the switch, it sounds very simplistic and sounds very easy, but it can be something that will demand certain amount of effort on our end. But nevertheless, we would like to understand what is that action that we are using, that metaphor, turning the switch or answering the phone call. What is that we have to do, and how that pertains to the name of the weekly portion, elevating the candles. As we're going to see that those candles, they represent a certain attribute within our personality, within our psyche, that we would like to investigate further, so we can really turn on the switch and really to reveal that pleasure or that illumination into our lives. This is what it's all about.
Sit.
אולי תכניס אותה בפנים.
ברכה לי.
Now, since we use the analogy of the power station, the consumer, this what we call the end consumer, or the receiver of that electric current, this realm is called Malchut in Hebrew, which means a kingdom. Why it's called a kingdom? Because it's our job in this reality to govern our own personal reality. We're giving all these tools, we're giving that playfield called physical reality, also called a kingdom or malchut, so we can rule it. And why we feel frustrated in our lives? Because if we attain or we are not attaining that which we would like to desire, and we want to receive that, when we don't have that, or when things are going out of control, we feel like we don't have the ability of the rulership of our reality. So how do we attain that rulership? That's really what the essence of this study is about. Another thing that when I'm using the analogy of turning the light switch, turn the light switch is a physical action. And what we learn in Kabbalah, some of the most important principles about turning the light switch is when we do an action in physicality, action below awakens action above. And if we want something to happen in this reality, it's not enough that we pray and we meditate, or we just focusing our attentions and just let the law of attraction bring it to us. It's not enough. What we learn in Kabbalah is it's important to do a certain action. And if we compare the lighting of the candelabra in the ancient days in the temple, the priest would light those. Thank you. He would light those. It's kind of hot today here. Thank you. The priest in the temple, the high priest, he would. That's it. That's it. Okay. The high priest would light those 7 candles in the temple, not because he wanted to have nice atmospheric or ambient light in the temple, but because he would do that with certain intention to draw some energy from the higher realms. Okay, so we understand that in Kabbalah, any physical action that we do, always we're advised to accompany with certain awareness. So we know that we do things in physical reality from a certain awareness, and that awareness is what we would like to cultivate. And that's also have to do with when we talk about elevating those lights. That's kind of part of where we're going with the study. So we want to awaken something from above by action below. Like turning the light switch is the last action we should do after we maybe been praying for the light to turn. We can sit in front of the light bulb in a room, say, light, please turn on. We meditate. We send good thoughts to the light bulb, but we have to turn on the switch, and then the light will turn on. So there's an element of physical action that needs to accompany
1%.
what we call the 1% reality, exactly. So the physical realm, the 1%, is a minute part of the whole system, and yet without it, the system cannot function. The source, endless source, what we call God or the universe, source creator, whatever name you like to assign to it, always wants to give us that energy. There is the natural tendency of source creator is sharing. There is no lack in this universe. But nevertheless, if we don't do that particular action followed with intention and with the understanding that the physical action is something that we have to do, the system is not complete. The reason physicality was created so we can do certain actions to embody the endless light of creator in physicality, because the endless source is shapeless, it's formless, it's something that cannot be defined. It's something that science is still very much struggling to comprehend and trying even to measure those, what they call the God particle, etc. But it's anything that it's not something we can perceive with our mind. So anything with physicality is a minute embodiment of that endless source. Nevertheless, without us, the consumer, being happy consumer, because the consumer is always right?
Not always. Yeah.
Well, if you look at the world of commerce, the consumer is always right. Even in the case of Kabbalah, the consumer is right, because if we don't receive pleasure in this reality, it doesn't mean that source is wrong, but it means something in the relationship or the connection between the consumer to the power station needs to be addressed. That's why we have customer service called the Zohar. So we use that system of tools so we can improve our connection to the power station, improve the wiring, etc. Anybody have questions, comments, observations so far? No? Okay. Now this portion, it comes right after receiving of the 10 ordinances, the 10 advices. I don't like to use the word the 10 commandments because, like we explained previously, there is no commanding in spirituality. If I command you to do something, I deprive from you your merit or your birthright to free will. So there is no 10 commandments. We have the 10 ordinances. Now, like we learned, those 10 advices are they were not something like do not steal, do not kill, do not do all those things that are mentioned in the 10 commandments. They're not something that was invented by the Israelites. It was previously known also by the laws of Hammurabi and also by the Egyptians. It's not new that humans were in what we call civilized society, where they were abstained, they were taught, or they were raised to understand that doing certain actions, it's not very good. It's not a positive thing to do, to kill somebody, to covet, to disrespect the elders, etc. It's not something that was invented by the Israelites. And nevertheless, if we look at our society, if we look at our system, the jails are not empty. Obviously, people are not really following those advices. And there's a reason why they're doing those advices. And the reason is, if a person steals, for example, why a thief goes and steals a certain thing? People steal because it's not about the object they want to acquire, but there's a certain light that is actually the object gives them. There's a certain fulfillment that is derived, or there's a pleasure that particular object brings them. The problem is when a person steals, it means they did not earn that light that is contained within that physical thing. So there is no blessing in stealing. That's just one example. So the reason people steal or they do all those things that we're not advised to do in those 10 commandments, so to say, quote unquote, the reason people do that because people, they lack the understanding that we're here to obtain the light or the energetic essence of things, not the physical things themselves. So this verse is really helping us to understand that further, and why we want to connect not to the physicality but to the essence of that which we desire. Because this understanding is very critical in what we're talking about feeling fulfilled in life, and to feel that we derive pleasure for things. Because when we understand the pleasure is not something that is within the physicality itself. The physicality is the mean, not the goal itself. And this is something that we want to expand further. So let's continue. Since we measured science, and I'm going to explain why I'm talking about science. We're taught, we are educated in this physical reality by what we call the modern society, to evaluate things about what we can see with our eyes and what we can measure with scientific tools. And if you look at scientific world, the last 20 years since we have the internet, etc., data multiplies itself every 2 years. So what we know today is only half what we will know in 2 years, and it's only a quarter what we'll know within 4 years, and that multiplies more and more. So even science know that whatever they know that is true today, it has an expiration date. Some people still may think that certain things are absolute, but science knows very clearly that data is very relative. And the reason I'm saying that is because Kabbalah taught us thousands of years ago that don't be attached to what we see with our eyes. Why is that? Because we learn in Kabbalah that our ability to perceive reality is very, very limited. And the whole point that we're discussing, that elevation of the lights, so we can attain a perception of a much, much wider reality that we are maybe until now we were not accustomed to perceive. Because we were not taught, because maybe until now we didn't believe it's actually attainable. Many people live by the virtue of show me the money, or they say, I only seeing is believing. If they don't see that, they're not going to believe that. Some people live by that decree, but Kabbalah says believing is seeing. Okay? Now, when we talk about attaining that wider or higher ability to perceive other realms beyond physicality, we learn that there are very clear rules to that system. And in order for us to understand the system, we have the manual, what we call the manufacturer's manual, called the Torah. That's what it's called, the guidance and it's called the instruction manual. The more we can connect to that, it's going to give us a much better ability to perceive this unseen reality. Now, seeing or perceiving this unseen reality is very especially more applicable to this month, because we spoke about it last week. The letters of the month are Resh and Zayin. Resh and Zayin in Hebrew are Raz. Raz means in Hebrew secret. The letters of the month of Gemini, it means a secret. Now, as we said last week, we never commemorate an event. Last week it was the giving of the Torah, because that event happened. We know that the event happened, what we discussed last week is because there was a certain cosmic, universal emanation of wisdom, of light, of energy that actually allowed the revealing of the Torah. And interesting enough, also the revealing of the Zohar was the same day that the Torah was revealed. So as we know, now we understand that time in the universe that pertains to the month of Gemini is very present right now. So when we talk about the secrets that are given to us by the Torah, we have a much I would say deeper insight into those secrets now in the month of Gemini, and that's why the Gemini is also represents. Let me find the drawing I did last week of the two tablets. Sorry, I have a little bit mess with the papers here, but we know that the two letters of the Gemini. Sorry, I'm not going to waste time right now looking for the drawing. But anyway, we know that the two tablets are also why the Gemini is all about. There are two, which are one. There are two aspects to the physical and the spiritual reality that are united, and the uniting of those two realities is what we are here to do as human beings. Okay. Before I continue, I want to jump into the Zohar a little bit and kind of get us into the subject matter of what we are going to expand on tonight. I'm going to read from verse number 1. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל אהרון ואמרת אליו, בהעלותך את הנרות וגומר. רבי יהודה פתח, והוא כחתן יוצא מחופתו וגומר. זכאך לכהון בישראל, וקודשא בריחו יתראי בהון, ויהב להון אורייתא דקשות, אילנה דחיי, דבי ברנש ירית חיין להי עלמה, וחיין לעלמה דעתי, דכל מן דשתדל באורייתא, ואחיד בה, אית לה חיין, וכל מן דשביק מילי דאורייתא, והתפרש מאורייתא, כאילו מתפרש מחיין, בגין דהי חיין, וכל מילוי חיין. ההד כי חיים הם וגומר, וכתיב רפאות תהי לשריך וגומר. Translation. And Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to Aaron and say to him, when you kindle the lamps. Rabbi Yehuda opened the discussion saying, which is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. Praised is the lot of Israel that the Holy One, blessed be He, favored them and granted them the Torah of truth, the tree of life by which a person inherits life for this world and the life for the world to come. Whoever tries to learn Torah and holds to her has life. Whoever leaves the words of Torah and separates from the Torah is as if he or she took a leave of life, since she is life, the Torah is life, and all of her words are life. As it is written, for they are life, and I shall be health to your navel. So this verse is is explaining to us how the Torah, and when I'm talking about the Torah, I'm not talking about what people perceive as the Bible or the literal translation of the Bible. The Torah, when we talk about the Torah, is understanding the secrets of the Torah. I'm again going to the letters of the month, the Raz, the secret. Okay, the Torah, we're understanding the Torah, we understand what lies underneath the stories, what's the secret in the stories. So when we understand the code names, we connect to the true essence of the Torah, which is life. Torah is endless. Torah was channeled into this reality or downloaded into this reality from endless source. That endless source that created this physical reality, the chief architect, if you may, of this physical reality, gave us that tool so we can draw from that endless source of the universe. So I'm not, again, here talking that you should study the Bible as it is. What we are here to talk about is to connect to the secrets of the Torah, because those secrets connect us directly to the endless source of Creator. through the codes name that we're talking here. So these are the secrets I'm talking about. Now, another term that we learn in this verse is something I spoke about previously. There is a difference between when we study the Torah, whether we live our life by purpose or we live our life by circumstance or by coincidence. What's the difference? When we learned that we spoke about this many times in previous classes, that human being, it's not about us looking for a meaning, but it's for us to connect it to the purpose, why we were created in this reality. When we understand that that the purpose of us being created in this reality, so we can connect to the endless source that created us through our experience in physical reality. So this is our purpose, right? It's not the meaning we assign, because today I can have a certain meaning to my day. How was your day? Today my day, So that's how you assign meaning to your day, by your evaluation, different standards, etc. But if you live life by purpose, it doesn't mean you don't have those ups and downs, but you can connect more to the bigger picture, why you're here and what is your particular task. This is living life by purpose. And then we have living life by circumstance. Oh, my life is like this. We only see things on an individual basis. We don't see the bigger picture. So connecting to the Torah and the wisdom of Torah reveals to us step by step the bigger picture. We can see a much, much clearer picture of our purpose here using the tools of the Torah. I shared this really interesting analogy about when we reveal our purpose by steps. When we understand that there's a purpose, if you go to a construction site, if you've been to a construction site, you look, the construction site, while it's in progress, it looks very messy and chaotic. There's a lot of debris, there's shambles, and it looks quite messy. The place doesn't look very pleasing, and it's really hard to envision a beautiful building that's going to be even more a temple, that we can maybe assign a meaning of something like very, very noble and very sacred to be built. Even as temple, when it's built, it looks, while it's in the construction phases, it doesn't look very pleasing. It looks very chaotic. And why I'm using the analogy of construction site, because oftentimes in our lives we look at a reality and it looks like we're in complete mess. And when we connect to the Torah, connecting to the Torah is giving us the wisdom and the insight, even when we are in very difficult moments. This is what our saving or a lifeline we can connect to connect us to the master plan, to the blueprint, until we can really truly see the final construction of our lives, of our reality, of our purpose. And this observation is very, very important, because it allows us to see beyond the circumstances. It's very hard for us to see life beyond, my financial situation like this, my marriage, my other half, or maybe my lack of other half, my children, etc. When we look at things in just a circumstance and just separate elements, we may miss the bigger picture. So that's why this verse is connecting us to that bigger picture, to that manual, to that instruction guide called the Torah. Now, what we're getting here is when we talk about elevating those lights, we are actually, what we taught here is about expanding our wants. What does it mean to expand our wants? I'm going to explain deeper what those candles they represent in our lives, but what we're going to learn here today, that by elevating the candles, it means we're elevating our wants, we're elevating our desires, and what's the mechanism to do that? We're going to talk about this later on. Which brings us to understand that when we elevate our wants, what we would like to, what kind of benevolence we would like to create in the world and to derive pleasure for that, obviously, then when we raise those wants, we can become better conduits of benevolence in this world. If we have very low wants, but we want to achieve certain things, our desire to achieve is always in alignment to the wants. If you want a certain amount of money in this reality, the question is, first of all, why you want the money and for what purpose? So two people can desire the same amount of money, but from different reasons and for a different purpose. So what we want to understand is we're not here to, again, reduce the wants. We want to elevate the wants from the purpose, from the point of view of the purpose, why we want those things. Does it make sense? Okay. So let's move to verse number 4. כהי גוונה והוא כחתן יוצא מחופתו, אז לה שימשה והתפשט לגבי מערב. כיוון דמערב התקריב, סתר צפון יתאר לקבלי בקדמתה, וקריב למערב וזוויג לי בתרי, כמה דהתמר דכתיב, שמאלו תחת לראשי, ולבטר סתר דרום דאיהו ימינה, דכתיב וימינו תחבקני, כדן יסיס כגיבור לרוץ אורח, להנהרה סיהרה והוקמוה, תחזה, בהעלותך את הנרות, אילן בוצינין אילאין, דכולהו נהירין, כחדה מן שמשה. Translation. Similar is the verse, which is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. The sun, Zeir Anpin, continues to spread to the west, which is Malchut. As soon as the west gets nearer, the north side is the first to be aroused towards it, that is Gvura, and approaches to the west. It joins it at that place. As we have learned, the beginning of Zeir Anpin, coupling is on the left, which is Gvura. That is the secret of reconciliation and getting permission. As it is written, his left hand is under my hand. Following that is the north side, which is right, meaning chesed, as is written, and his right hand embraces me. Then it rejoices like a strong man to run a race. To illuminate the moon from the central column, that is Yesod, and this has been explained. Come and behold, when you kindle the lamps, these are the loftiest candles, which are the Sephirot of Malchut, which all shine brightly in unison from the sun, which is Zeir Anpin. To understand a bit about the terminology we're using here, again, Malchut, the physical reality. When we talk about Zeir Anpin, these are the 6 Sephirot that are above our physicality. So when you talk about the sun it represents the central Sephirah, which is Tiferet in Zeir Anpin. Now, the sun, when you talk about the analogy of the sun illuminates, the energy of the sun illuminates. But if you want, let's say you're growing a plant, and you want your plant to enjoy the energy of the sun, you have to position the plant in a certain way to receive that energy of the sun so it can grow. The energy that we nourish ourselves in this reality is the same way. Like we learned many times previously, that there's a certain force that operates our body, it operates our physical systems, it operates our breathing, etc. But there is another force that we have to work for it. We have to, first of all, to cultivate the desire. That's why we use the term elevating the candles. I'm going to again explain the candles, what it means. The elevation pertains to elevating our desires. So the light does not change. It's our capacity to contain the light and to use it. That's what we want to here to discuss and to learn how to do it more effectively. Okay? Let's continue. So we spoke that the Torah is what is the manual. We would like to tap deeper. Ideally, you've been, or hopefully you guys been doing some study on your own. Maybe listening to these classes, maybe doing your own research to dive deeper into this amazing, endless plethora of information and wisdom. And if we use it, the analogy of Kabbalah, the Kabbalah in Torah is more like science than religion. And why is that? If you've been raised in a Catholic home or in a Jewish home or other very stern and strict religious background, the first thing that the few things that you may remember from your upbringing is that don't ask questions, because that's how things should be done, and that's how you should be. These are the rules. You should follow the rules. Another thing that you've probably been raised, if you're from Jewish background or a Catholic home, is that we were born with the original sin. It's part of our DNA, and all our life should be an endless journey of turmoil, of suffering, to repent for those sins. Kabbalah is nothing like that. Kabbalah teaching us that we actually came into this world with the attribute of source, so we can resemble to source. Now, if we harbor feelings of guilt, shame, and blame, it's very unlikely we're going to achieve that. So Kabbalah is nothing like religion. Kabbalah is teaching you to be, it's very precise science. You do certain action, you get certain result. It's very scientific proven. And in science, if you do one thing and you get certain result, it means you can reproduce those results. And Kabbalah is very much like science. Nevertheless, it has certain rules, more close to the world of magic than the world of traditional science, because Kabbalah is teaching you one of the first rules you're in Kabbalah: whatever you think is logical is illogical, and vice versa. So whatever you know, forget about it. That's one of the things you learn about Kabbalah when you enter into the world of Kabbalah and the Zohar. Try to embrace the idea that we know nothing, really, and even what we see with our eyes is really nothing. It's something, but it's nothing. Okay, so just let's kind of get with this understanding. So Zohar teaching us those tools that actually these are very scientific tools, not religious tools. It's very important. The word, interesting enough, the word for religion in Hebrew is dat. Dat it comes from the word dat. Dat means wisdom, but if you take the ayin outside of the dat, you get dat, which means ayin means eye. If you take the eye outside of the word dat, you get religion, which means it's blind faith, and it's not what we learn here. Okay? So I'm sorry if that's a little bit confusing in Hebrew, etc. And also, if you know, the goal of religion is to make humans believe in things that they not necessarily understand or know. Now, we also talk in certain things in Kabbalah that we invite you to embrace that you not necessarily know. Nevertheless, Kabbalah is not telling you to follow blindly. Kabbalah is telling you, look at things from a perspective that you actually understand that you have a certain benefit, first of all. Second, you understand why human beings were created. In religion, bless you, in religion terminology, there is no that understanding that, first of all, the purpose of the creation of humans so we can enjoy the creation. So that's why the whole idea of guilt, shame, and blame is taking away the power from humans to really enjoy this creation. So when you understand that we're here to enjoy the creation, it already gives you a certain direction to your lives. And if you live in life of suffering and you don't enjoy your life, if you're not in a religious mode, you begin to ask questions and you start to ask yourself, how can I make this experience in this life more pleasurable? In Kabbalah says, the more the merrier. It says, go for it and ask for those things, because you cannot reveal higher forces in this reality if you're not happy. So your happiness is essential to what we learn, what we talk here, and that's why the word Messiah in Hebrew is Mashiach. It comes from the word Sameach. It means joyful. As we said earlier in previous classes, the term Mashiach or Messiah is not a person. Messiah is a state of mind. When each and every one of us who are connecting to our purpose, when each and every one of us we do what we love and we love what we do, that's how we reveal Messiah to the world. That's how we make a change in the world. When people are on a quantum level or like on a critical mass level, there is more goodness in this reality, because there's always those kind of two forces that pulling one of the negative deeds or the negative or low vibrations, and there's the higher vibrations, there's the good deeds. So it's always there's like the balance between the two. So when we have enough people that connect to the Messiah state of mind, that's how we bring shift to this planet. That's how we do that. We cannot just say, oh, in certain date there's going to be a shift in the world and we're just everybody going to ascend or to raise our vibration, etc. Those cycles are happening, but we have to do, like we said earlier in the class, we have to do certain actions in this reality. We have to turn on the switch. We cannot just pray to the light bulb to turn on. We have to do those actions. Okay? So that understanding that the Torah is a scientific tool. So something for us to study and to get results in steps. Okay? But getting results nevertheless. Well, let's understand what is the meaning of the word candle. Candle in Hebrew means it's ner. And let's see what is the word in Hebrew ner and how we can understand it on a spiritual level. Okay? I'll make a little drawing, which is always fun. So candle, let's make a drawing right here. So we have the candle, we have the body of the candle, we have the wick, and we have the flame. So we have three parts. One, we have part two, and we have part three. So on the physical level, we all know what those means. Let me write also the word in Hebrew, ner, how it looks in Hebrew, ner. So we have the flame, we have the wick, and we have the body of the candle. Now, on a spiritual level, the code name of candle, first of all, candle comes from the word, it's an acronym actually. the acronym of two words, neshama and nefesh, or neshama or nefesh or ruach. So basically, the ner is an acronym of levels of a soul. So the word of candle in Hebrew, it represents our soul. Okay? Now we know in Kabbalah we have three levels of the soul, but the unity between the lower or the upper soul with the there's three levels. So when we unite in those levels, that's how we can create higher perfection. But nevertheless, our soul is the code name. The candle is the code name for our soul. Okay, makes sense? Okay. So let's see what those mean. Let's use a different color to make it more easier to see. So the body of the candle is the vessel. Okay. The wick is our desire to receive. And the flame is the fulfillment, is the pleasure, is the light, is enjoyment. Okay. Let's call it in Hebrew. Let's just use the word pleasure here. Now, obviously, if one of those parts is lacking, we cannot have a burning candle. If we just have the wax or we have the body of the candle, we have no wick, we cannot reveal light. If we just have fire and a wick, we don't have a candle, the fire is not going to last very long. So obviously, all those three aspects, they must exist to maintain circuitry. That's why the vessel is the left column. The pleasure, the light, is the right column. And the wick is the middle column. So we know, like we said previously in previous classes, anything in this reality that we would like to create continuity and fluidity and success, we need to maintain those three columns. So when we talk about in this portion about elevating the candles, it's about elevating our soul. What does it mean to elevate our soul? Now we know that in Kabbalah that we said earlier that when we have a vessel, in order for us, when you talk about the vessel, it means we have a certain lack that we would like to fulfill. Now, this lack is fulfilled by our desire to receive. So again, I'm repeating certain Kabbalistic terms. If I want to eat something right now, first of all, I need to make sure I have a vessel. I have to have a body to receive the food. I have to have some utensils, something that can sustain myself. The desire to receive is what fulfills what satiates that desire, and the result of that process is the light that I reveal. So all those three aspects is the code name of candle. Now I'm using like one example, but you can see each and every desire that we have in our lives needs to have those three things. Certain things in our lives, maybe we feel there's lack of that pleasure because the light hasn't been turned on, because we did not receive that desire, we did not receive that fulfillment of that desire. So as we're going to learn Kabbalah also, very important term, like when we want something, Kabbalah tells us, learn to restrict. Remember why, Maya? Restricting, why is restricting is important?
Well, because I said something, I decided something, now I'm restricting, I'm saying, wait a minute, I'm going to wait.
You said something, what do you mean?
When I want something, definitely very important decisions in life, and I know what I want. However, when I'm restricting, that means, docha,
postponing.
Right. That means I'm allowing to light also to be in the game. I'm actually calling to my partner, which is a creator, light, to be part of this decision. So either I know my thoughts on my decisions, I'm going to stop for a while, maybe few hours, few days, and going to allow to receive another message, right? Another energy, that it's higher energy just than my physical self. Mm-hmm. So it's usually creates miracles from my experience, because many times I thought I want something or I think it's the best, and then I discovered that there are better options that my mind couldn't even think about them.
Something even better.
Yeah, usually better. Yes.
So thank you. It's a beautiful explanation. What Maya explained to us is actually it's really the importance in this. The most important thing in this process is the weak. The desire is there. The fulfillment is what we anticipate. But the more we want immediate fulfillment, the more we want something to happen right now, it means we have less desire to restrict. Because that restriction is what creates the circuitry. The restriction is what we call in Hebrew or chozer. It means I want something, but I'm creating the restriction to make sure that actually I'm building a vessel. So if you want tremendous wealth, for example, and then some opportunity comes to you, like very quick way of receiving the wealth, maybe something that we not necessarily worked to earn our way. Nevertheless, some big opportunity comes to us. So the first thing a Kabbalist would do is, first of all, they will restrict. It doesn't mean they're giving up the desire to receive, but actually they're restricting, not from a place that they don't want the money or that goodness to come to them. They're restriction because they want to, first of all, make sure there's a vessel to contain that light. And we know also Kabbalah, when something comes to you without effort and you didn't earn it, it's more likely to disappear faster. Doesn't mean that if something comes to you, it appears very quickly or appears very easy. Maybe it's a result of very, very long effort, and that's the fruition of your effort. I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible. But if you have a certain Kabbalistic insight to think that when they appear to you, what may appear as easy, maybe it's just the fruition of something that you've been working on for a very long time. But some people, as you can see, in different avenues of life, they achieve like tremendous fame very quickly, sometimes very young age. But they did not have the vessel to restrict that or to build a vessel to hold that. It's very quickly brings to very negative results. So what we are really learning to cultivate here is to develop that desire and the restriction. We don't give up, we don't eliminate our desire, we expand our desire to receive, but with that level of, I'm checking things out. I'm not just, whatever comes to me, I'm just take it all in. I'm just using that ability to reflect about my capacity, how can I handle it, and how can I distribute this energy I'm going to receive, which is maybe tremendous energy sometimes. I want to make sure that I can receive this energy in the most effective way, because I know it's not just for myself.
Now, many people ask, okay, restriction. How do we know how long we are restriction? Because we know there are windows of opportunities in life, and sometimes you cannot just wait and oh, I'm restricting. And no, there is some point that it's very kind of tipping point that, you restrict and then move on and act. So many people ask, like, how do we know? There is no really system, how many days, how many hours, but there is any method on that?
Okay, I think from a woman perspective, I think it's a much easier example I can give. Usually when, again, it's maybe a stereotype, but maybe I think more likely when a woman dates a man, usually the woman is the one who restricts more. Usually the nature of the man is more, they want that physical. I'm not saying all of them. It's again maybe stereotypical, but generally speaking,
Most
that's the truth. I think most of it is true. I think maybe many will agree with me that level of restriction is something that usually in that kind of relationship, the woman, she's like the one who's restricting, and until a certain point, if she likes the guy, and the restriction is like translated into actions.
Well,
so how does the woman know? You answer.
No, the question is, what if you already talk about relationship, because it's interesting. I really wanted to mention, but I said, I forget it, and then you mentioned anyway. The first question is, what's the meaning of the relationship? It's just for dating, it's just for sex, or it's just for marriage?
Exactly.
So it's so different.
This is how you evaluate the vessel.
Right, but it's so different what the meaning of dating, right? So if we go to serious relationship, right? The man and the woman, they're looking for serious relationship, to build
a higher purpose relationship, something like.
Let's say marriage, right? Get married to the right partner, right?
Even the marriage, for what purpose?
Well, this is different question. We're talking about restriction. So in this case, from my experience, even though it doesn't sound normal to many people, when I first heard about relationship in Kabbalistic learning from the Zohar, so they talk about full restriction. There is no sex involved when people dating for serious marriage and building a family. So the Zohar says clearly, no physical contact. Now, myself and many others, when we start many years ago study, we said, what do you mean? I mean, get married to someone without even knowing how we feel together in physical relationship? And the answer was yes. And I wasn't agree for many years. However, when I went deeper to the study, I understand that if there's soulmate relationship, the physical, you know, if it's sex or pleasure, it's obviously has to be good.
It will follow.
Yeah, because it has to be if it's soulmate relationship. If not, yeah, bad news. So that means go for higher purpose. If the partner, your partner, or the couple is shooting for a higher purpose, like achieving goals, you know, spiritual goals together, obviously there is a soulmate relationship there. So there is a lot of trust about physical pleasure.
So I think you answered your own question.
It's about, yeah, we're talking about free relationship. What about business? What about,
even
you know?
the thing with business, when you meet a person, the business opportunity, let's say you're looking for an investor, or maybe you're an investor, you're looking for somewhere to invest your money. Okay, let's say you have a lot of money and you want to invest on somewhere. So someone comes to you with a great idea. Maybe you hear ideas, pitches for different business products, services, etc. So you meet a lot of people, and maybe 10 ideas, they look wonderful to you, and then you feel like you want to invest in all of them, but you have to put some kind of a restriction to evaluate. Now, if you're a Kabbalistic investor, if you're coming from a point of Kabbalah, you're not just looking for the return of investment. You're not just going to look at, okay, how much money I'm going to get from that deal. Kabbalistic investor, that's going to be the last thing they're going to concern about. From the same reason, when a person knows that there's soulmate relationship, it's obvious it's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be always fun also in business to collect the money, that's wonderful. But the first thing you will evaluate is for what purpose is that business or that product, and what is the light it's going to reveal in the world. That's the kind of the Kabbalistic set of mind. Okay? And the same thing if you are the entrepreneur, and if you're going to invest or you're going to whatever places you want to raise the money, you always, with that kind of wisdom of Kabbalah, you will develop something. The first thing you're going to think about is not how much money you're going to make. The first thing you're going to be thinking about is how much goodness I can create in the world. That's how you think about it. When you go with this state of mind, you know that the money will follow too. You know that source will provide, because source funds source projects. So you know, how do you know how much to restrict? You know, you see something, you see an opportunity, and then you can evaluate with the tools that we discussed. And obviously it takes experience, right? You have to gain some kind of experience to cultivate those faculties. Sometimes you don't need so many words for a person to tell you about what's in their heart, why they're really doing what they're doing. Because some people can be like very smooth talking about, oh, I'm going to change the world, I have these great ideas, but really deep inside it's not their intention. So to cultivate those faculties and to know when to restrict, when to say no, and when to say, oh, it sounds really good, but let me think about it, and maybe you think about it, and then you feel like this is the right thing. So it's a muscle, it's some kind of faculty we need to train. But what we learn from the Zohar, that there are certain criteria and there are certain questions you ask yourself to make sure that you have all those 3 parts in place to allow this continuity. And we talk about not a candle that burns for 2 hours, but something that it's continuous. That's what we talk about life. The Torah is endless light. Endless means there's constant circuitry. So does it answer the question? Okay. But the relationship example is a wonderful example about restriction, but it can be too many different things, So any physical action we do is connected to the upper realms, what we in a potential, because we can do certain action in physicality, like some people say, I'm eating because I'm hungry. When we learned previously in Kabbalah, like we eat not just because we're hungry, we eat because by eating the food, like if I'm eating your food, not just because I'm hungry, because I'm eating your food because I experience your love from the food. And also when I eat the food and I bless the food, I experience appreciation to Source who created the sustenance. So that's what it means. You do certain actions. It's like you cannot think about every action all the time, but you cultivate more awareness of what physical actions you do and for what purpose.
It's matter of create this habit of
It is a habit.
everything I'm doing.
It's a new habit, yeah.
Even if I'm going and helping homeless, bringing food to homeless, right?
Yeah.
Usually people say, "Oh, I'm so good, I'm helping people," right? But by Kabbalah teaches us that it's not. No, that's not right. No, of course you're helping a human being. However, the higher purpose of it to get closer to Creator.
And you get closer to Creator by being a force of sharing.
Right.
So when you help a homeless person, the homeless person actually doing you a bigger favor than you're doing to them. The homeless person, there's a story about there's a Kabbalist story about a very wealthy person who was walking in the street and he saw a very poor guy, but this poor guy was very wise guy, and he understands some of those Kabbalistic terms we talk about. And when the rich guy wanted to give him the money, he saw that the rich guy was doing that to kind of feel good about himself, and he refused to receive the money.
Yeah.
And that wealthy guy also had some Kabbalistic understanding, but he knows that when you give charity, it can save your life by giving charity. So the homeless person, he said, "No, I don't want your money. I refuse to get your money." Until to a point that the wealthy guy was begging to him, "Please let me give you some money," because the poor guy realized that actually he knew that, but he had to create some kind of a vessel in this guy, that he does that from really place of the understand that he is doing that more for the rich guy, not for himself.
Humbleness.
Place for humbleness, but also he allows that rich guy to give money because it gives him the opportunity to exercise his ability to be a creator. I mean, maybe to you it sounds like a really crazy story, but actually those poor people that receive our charity, they are doing us a favor, big favor. It doesn't appear like that, but that's really kind of the twisted Kabbalistic logic that is completely, maybe sounds crazy to you, but kind of you get the idea, you know?
Yeah.
Because you think, "Oh, I have money, I'm doing him a favor." No, he's doing you a favor by taking your money. It's a completely different understanding. So when we talk about this light force that we want to reveal in things in life, if you think about entertainment and media, what are the most successful forms of entertainment? Are fantasy films. Why is that? Why is Harry Potter, Narnia, all those fantasy movies are so popular? Because they reveal a certain hidden reality where there is magic. Now you might say it's fantasy. Kabbalah is all about magic. It's a good magic. We are here to reveal. We are here the magicians. That's why we say abracadabra. I create what I speak. How do we reveal this magic in this reality? Not just by speaking, but also by actions. Those actions we do in this reality, those actions reveal those unseen forces that we cannot perceive with our senses. It's all about magic, but it's good magic because it's magic that creates pleasure for the one who is doing the action and for others as well. There is also the black magic that this is not the direction we're going into that. But it's really the good, the revealing the light, the good magic. Now let's talk about a little bit, study deeper the mechanism of what are those secrets. We talk about elevating the lights, which means elevating the candles. We elevate our soul. Now let's talk about understanding more the secrets behind this mechanism or dynamics of that process. The Torah is the clothing, or is the embodiment, the physical embodiment of upper secrets in worldly terms, in time and space and characters. We already spoke about it more than many times, that the names of the patriarchs, the matriarchs, the events, the locations, they're all codes for upper forces. The reason we use those earthly terms is so we can, first of all, have a certain story, that kind of certain construction, to create some kind of narrative. And because we're human beings, we love stories, okay? But the Torah, the Zohar says very clearly, don't get stuck with the story. We know in Kabbalah that there is a term called pardes, which means there are 4 levels to decipher the Torah. Pei is pshat, which is the simplicity. Remez means a hint. Daled means drash, means inquiry, and then Samech means secret. Now when we know that there are 4 steps, the Kabbalah is taking us to the deepest depth of the secrets of the Torah. It means Pardes. Now, if we miss the secret, and some people they don't go into the secret, they only have the word Peret. Peret means a mule or an ass. So which gives us the understanding that if we don't go and dive deeper into the secrets of the Torah, you're like an ass, basically. I mean, I know it sounds pretty, not sound very good, but that's kind of the level that there is. The Kabbalist tells us you're stuck in that level. So don't get stuck in the superficial stories, the characters, the names, the location. It's not about that. We spoke about it many times. And we know the Zohar still uses deciphering certain words that have to do with our reality, but there's a higher study in Kabbalah called the 10 luminous emanations. 10 luminous emanations, there are no characters, there are no places. It all talks about names that are very abstract. And if you tap into the 10 luminous emanations, you can get a better understanding that we're talking about something, a very abstract reality. Is the reality above what created this reality? I mean, when I'm talking about above, we know there is the 7 Sephirot, the system of the 7. So we know above the system of the 7 is the system of the 3. It's called Gimel Rishonot. The 10 luminous emanation connects us to that realm, which is a realm of complete abstract terminology. But nevertheless, it also has certain rules. So we are still in the study form or framework of talking about terms that have earthly equivalents. But they are not here. We're not here to discuss them, and we're here to understand the depth of it. Okay? Now, when we understand those, when we start to get deeper into those secrets, which is again a very important opportunity in this month of Gemini, which is again the letters of secret. Now, when we learn of those physical terms, we learn that from the Zohar it's okay to utilize the stories of the Torah, to use them as long as we understand what they stand for. Example, Egypt. When we talk about Egypt, we're never ever, just in Kabbalah at least, we're never talking about historical event of Exodus, of certain group of people, of one country, and what happened there physically. When we talk about Egypt, it's about the exodus of our imprisonment into forces of enslavement in this reality. That's why we talk about the story of Egypt, Pesach, etc. So that's one example when we understand their codes. And the Torah is teaching us not just the codes, but also teaching us about the timing, when those forces are more at play, and gives us the tools how to overcome those forces. Okay, so that's another example. Now, as long as we don't tap into the secrets of creation, of what we learn from the Torah, and we only dwell on the external, we miss the entire purpose of our being as humans. So if we don't tap into the secrets, we basically live like animals. I know it sounds really bad, but again, human in Hebrew means Adam. Adam comes from the word Adameh, means resemble. Resemble what? Resemble upper force. Adam comes also from the word Adama, which means earth. So if we don't tap into the secrets of creation, we live closer to the earth like animals, basically. So another term that I would like to share with you, in Hebrew, the word external reality or physical reality, it means chitzoni. Chitzoni comes from the Hebrew word chetzi, which means half. What we understand, the conclusion is, physical reality gives us only a hint about the half of the picture, even less than that, but chitzoni comes from the word half. So what we perceive with our physical senses, never take it as a complete picture. Okay? Now, when we know the secrets of creation, what we learn by the Torah, we then know how to steer our soul. Again, that's the candle that we've been talking about. We learn how to steer those candles, our soul, in the right direction, which means to elevate the candle. So what we learn here, that the elevation of the candles that we're talking from the beginning of the class, we can achieve that elevation in steps by tapping into the secrets of the Torah. And the secrets of the Torah, they're teaching us again why we're here, what's the purpose, and how we can utilize their forces to our benefit and to the benefit of creation. So steering in the right direction, it's how we can elevate. And when you talk about the right direction, is to understand for what purpose we're here. But we know how to work with the 3 parts of the candle that we showed earlier. To understand those 3 parts, we need to learn how to use our desire to receive, that the week that we're talking about. We never do any physical action without infusing it with an intention to connect to its essence, to the source. And again, we give different examples that it's not something we can do on a 24 levels. I go to the bathroom, I think, etc. But we start to have a better realization about physical actions. We're not just done because I feel like it right now in the moment. We start to have a little bit higher awareness of that. Okay? Now the Zohar is teaching us that holiness, or Kedusha in Hebrew, cannot dwell where there is no joy and there is no happiness, like we said earlier. So why can't we just do things which make us happy? Because if we say, okay, the purpose of this reality is to enjoy the reality, so the logical conclusion might be, okay, I'm just going to do things that whatever makes me happy. Right now I feel like doing this because I'm going to feel happy. Okay? But Zohar says, no, not like that. Why? It would not, because we cannot, or we're not advised to do things just because we feel like it. The answer is that pleasure, what we use the word light, is a cause and is also an effect. Again, the light that we derive from things, the pleasure, is the cause and is also the effect. I'm going to explain what it means. It all included within the complex system of our emotions as a human being. When we talk about that, the pleasure that we derive is a cause and it's an effect. Here I want to show a little drawing to kind of explain to you what I mean. Okay? Here's a cleaner piece of paper. So, if we take our overall experience in life as a human being, right? So this is kind of accumulation of who we are, our identity, etc. So what are the things that affect our definition or our evaluation of pleasure, or what we think we enjoy from them? So one source can be friends. Another one can be our family. Like you were raised in a certain family and you learn in your family, these are certain things. Like if you grew up in an Italian family, so pasta is a pleasure. If you grew up in a French family, it's a pizza or whatever. Different pleasures, different backgrounds, friends, etc.
Corazon.
Another source is environment. Like if you look at your environment, there are certain attributes in your environment that affect your experience of pleasure. Okay? Another one is ads or commercials. Okay, we see certain ads and they tell you if you drink Coca-Cola, you're going to look like Brad Pitt, right? So for some people, like, why if you look like Brad Pitt or like some beautiful celebrity, that's a great source of pleasure. So advertising is another source that feeds our mind with some ideas about how we can attain more pleasure in this reality. Another one is study, right? Studying from the right sources, not from the source that steers you in the wrong direction. So another one is study. How are we doing with the time, by the way, Maya?
9:10.
9:10, okay. Another one is past experiences that we've been through.
9:15.
Okay. We've been through different experiences in our lives. Some experiences were good, so we said, okay, this kind of experience, I want to remember them so I can repeat them because they bring me a lot of pleasure. Some of them, they were not very pleasurable, even sometimes were painful, so we were ideally steer our lives to stay away from those painful experiences, okay? Another one is our inner potential. We all have some kind of a perception about what are the concealed forces within ourselves. And we have the notion that if I have those potential forces revealed, I can derive more pleasure, more enjoyment from this reality. Another one is our senses. Okay? So these are some examples. And all those things that I mentioned here, they all create in our what we call in Kabbalah reshamim, which means impressions. So those impressions are a collection of different sensations in our body. In other words, if I remember past experience, I think about it, it creates a certain feeling or sensation in my body. If it's a pleasant experience, that the sensation is going to be pleasurable, it's going to be a good sensation, which will create in me a desire to reproduce this experience. If it's unpleasant, I will avoid reproducing this experience. Okay? So those impressions is basically all those things that I just mentioned, that we gather all these influential factors and we add them up based on what we perceive as essential for our overall enjoyment. It is measured like scales, like we have always those kind of like balance sheets. If you have a business, we always evaluate our reality. Okay, I had so far good experience versus negative experience. Like you can do it on a daily basis. You come back home and say, how your day was. If you say, I had a bad day, it means the negative experiences, there were more than the positive ones, and vice versa. You come home, you're happy, means you feel like you fulfilled. Maybe somebody, somebody you experienced like very minute negative experience, but overall your day was great. So your scale are towards the positive one. Okay, that's how we evaluate. Now, if we desire to transform or to upgrade our stock of positive experiences, so have more of those sources of good experience, we need to enter new data. So let's say we know a certain amount of information. Okay, I have this amount of information that I know. If I do those things, it will bring me pleasure, or what I perceive as pleasure. Now, if I want to expand, to have more enjoyment from this life, and we talk about the right enjoyment, not just something that's kind of what we call high and buy, right? So if I want to bring more enjoyment from this reality on a higher level, I have to bring new data, new information, right? Now, this process is very often, it's done unconsciously, and we aim to make it something conscious. Like if we don't evaluate what we perceive is going to bring us pleasure in this reality, and we're looking for new things that will bring us more pleasure, but we do it from the wrong consciousness, we will always keep looking at the wrong sources. They will bring us only temporary fulfillment, not everlasting. It's going to be create at the end of the day even more frustration than positive enjoyment. So the point is that we want to learn how to cultivate or how to expose ourselves to enjoyment that will not leave us empty after that. So we said earlier that that enjoyment or those impressions are the cause and the effect. What does it mean? Our emotional reaction to our accumulated experiences is the cause for our future experiences, and it is also the effect of all we have accumulated so far. Let me repeat that. Our emotional reaction of our accumulated experiences is the cause for our future experiences, and it is also the effect of what we have accumulated so far. So if I had ice cream previously, like I ate a certain brand, it was very delicious ice cream, and then I'm thinking about that ice cream, and I have a very pleasant sensations. So this sensation I have right now is the effect of my previous experience. But it is also the cause for future experience, because I'm going to have the same ice cream again. Do you understand? So it's the cause and it's an effect. So what's the problem here? The problem here that we can get stuck in certain ideas and sensations. Because if we know about certain things that bring us pleasure, because we feel sensation in the body, because we tasted that before, or maybe we heard about from somebody, oh, I heard about this thing, that if you go and do that, you get enlightened. People get enlightened. They go and do this and that. Maybe you get enlightened, and you heard from somebody you trust. It's like, wow, that sounds really wonderful. Then you go and experience that, and you don't get enlightened. Or maybe you get, or you think you're something in your experience, especially when you do it with the wrong mindset, it will always create frustration. You might experience the pleasure. My point is, we want to get out of that vicious cycle, okay? And just kind of wanna explain the mechanism. If you know about the meditation of Vipassana, for example, in this meditation, you observe the contact between mind and matter. So when we have thought, the thought manifests itself in the body as a certain sensation. So if we keep thinking the same thoughts, we have the same sensations in the body. So we have to start to think in new thoughts, so we can produce different sensations in the body. How do we do that? Okay? The way we do that, we strengthen our wick that we spoke about, that candle, that desire to receive. So if until now I thought, once in a while I have to get that certain intoxication because it makes me feel good. Okay, so I did it a couple of times. It really felt really good. I felt like I did maybe some drug, or it was some alcohol or whatever it is that it made me feel very good. So that was the remember what I remember from the past. So that experience is stored within my nerve system. So that is the effect of my past experience. But now, because I want to reproduce it again, it's going to be the effect. Excuse me, it was the effect from the past, it's going to be the cause for future experiences. So when we talk about strengthening the wick, it means, okay, I did it in the past, and now I have this desire to do it again. What do I do now? Restrict. We talk about strengthening a wick. The wick of the candle means I restrict. It's like I have the vessel, I remember that experience, I have the desire to experience so I can receive the pleasure, but now I'm restricting. So that means you are strengthening the wick. Okay? This is how you create higher forms of pleasure. You are not repeating the same pleasures that brought you the temporary fulfillment. You start to elevate or cultivate bigger pleasures by restricting. You not just do, oh, I feel like right now doing something I did before because I feel like it. My body told me, right? Some people say my body tells me.
Yes.
So who's in charge? You're the body.
My body asks for meat.
Yeah, exactly. So we are strengthening the wick. So what we do by that, we're eliminating our automatic reactions. Okay? So what I'm teaching here is not something that Kabbalah invented. It's like Buddha spoke about Vipassana, the same thing. We're just using different terminology and slightly different explanation.
It's a universal truth.
It's a universal truth, but we are using maybe different terms. So when we talk about, again, the name of the class is elevating the candles, elevating our soul, we can elevate when we're strengthening our ability to restrict. That's a very important understanding, because we may have in the past been doing certain things that were being very harmful for us, and because we were not able to restrict. So now with this wisdom, we can evaluate, okay, this action that I did in the past, maybe now I'm restricted. No, I'm not going to do it right now, because there's something bigger I would like to reveal, because I'm restricting that. That's how you strengthen your wick. Okay? And this is how different we are from animals. Animals don't have this ability. My dog, if I bring them a bone, they cannot restrict. They're going to eat the bone. They were not going to say, oh, maybe I should restrict the bone because later they're going to bring me a filet mignon. Right? They're not going to do that. They're going to eat the bone. So there isn't restrictions with animals. And when we do that, we can choose, or we can make the choice to teach ourselves to enjoy new things that we never experienced before. If we can repeating the same thought and reaction, followed by reaction, or following by something that we've already done in the past, we're not changing our reaction, we're not going to create new habits, so we're not going to create new experience or new pleasures. Okay? So basically our emotional ecosystem is a closed system, and we can get out of it by utilizing our ratzon, our desire. So it's not enough to say, oh, I want to elevate myself, I want to be an enlightened person, if you're not using restriction. Because restriction also means maybe some social circles that you've been part of in the past, they were not taking you to that higher level of understanding or fulfilling your potential, etc. So now you're restricting because you have a higher purpose in mind. Does that make sense? So let's continue before I go more and read more from the Zohar.
9:25.
So another little diagram today, I have a little drawings. I want to show you something, kind of to also explain what we've been discussing. I think it's something that we can all identify to one extent or the other, is what may feel sometimes as a conflict between the mind and the heart. Okay? So I'm going to draw what I'm going to draw here. We have the mind, and then we have the feeling. Okay? So we have a scale between the two. Sometimes we do certain actions which are what we call emotional mind. We are doing certain thoughts that are driven by emotions. Or sometimes we do what we call certain emotions that are very logical. That we are set in a certain logical way, but then we almost can program certain emotions by logic. So always we kind of on the scale between those two. So what's the effective way to learn Kabbalah? So first of all, those two, both the mind and both the heart, are part of our desire. Okay, we can desire that's driven by the mind. We have desire that's driven by feeling. I feel, and when I talk about feelings, unfortunately, very often these are very automatic feelings that are very low and unrestricted feelings. So this is our kind of the scale of our desire, our ratzon. So what we learn in Kabbalah, we want to learn to take our feelings, to evaluate them with our mind, to think, okay, I have a feeling to do this and this right now because I feel like it. So when we talk about restriction, it means I can restrict my reaction to the feelings by elevating it to a higher mind, to evaluate my reaction, and then bring it down again and decide whether I'm going to do this action or not. That's kind of the skill we would like to cultivate. Some things is difficult. For some people, certain things are more difficult than the others. If you decided to lose weight, for example, and until now you were used to go to have a pizza at Cheesecake Factory every night, and then you decide to lose weight. So tonight you still have the recording, or let's go to the Cheesecake Factory to eat pizza. Then you restrict, because the feeling is there, the sensation in the body is very strong, but then you take it out to the mind, because the mind reminds you, hey, wait a minute, but you decided to make some lifestyle adjustments. So you still have the sensation, you still have the feeling, but then you evaluate, you're raising your feeling to the mind, and you decide based on thought, not based on feelings. Okay, this is not aligned with what I desire. Therefore, I'm not going to go to that, and I'm going to go and eat some salad. Or I'm just going to go and have do a jog by the beach or something like that. So this is how we create new habits. We have to get out of that vicious cycle of thought, sensation, and reaction. Because we don't react to the thought, we always react to sensations. Okay, if you go to the kind of subtle level of how things we experience in our reality, it's always reaction to the sensation in the body, not to the thought. But we have to be able to stop and to strengthen our wick, like we said, to use our ability to restrict, so we can cultivate ability to connect to higher pleasures. Okay, not just by instant gratification of the physical body. So last thing before I'm going to do a little bit more Zohar reading is how can we refine our wants and desires? Because when we talk about elevating our lights, our candles, elevating our soul, which means we are refining our desires and wants. Maybe if I was desiring certain things, maybe now I can desire higher things. It can also pertain to your attainment in business or your attainment in your profession. Maybe until now you're at a certain level of desire. You want to achieve a certain level. And now you can elevate, you can refine it, you can go higher. How do we do that? We do that by start to identify major wants and desires versus minor wants and desires. And when we articulate a central want or desire, we can evaluate our secondary wants. Which means, let's say you desire you have a certain level of skill in art. Okay, now you're going to go to achieve a much higher attainment in art. So that's a central want. Okay. Now minor wants, okay, but I feel like going to have a beer tonight with my friends, or I feel like doing this and doing that, which would be not in alignment, because if you want to achieve a certain mastery, you have to invest time and you have to do some practice, right? But if your friends invite you to play video games, that's kind of one of those small wants that you always. Now, playing video games can be a central want, but if you want to improve, to achieve certain mastery, you evaluate those small wants with a bigger one. That's how we evaluate them. You always have a central one. You have a certain goal, and you evaluate things in comparison to a central goal. So if your central goal is to be healthy, and your friends invite you to have pizza or eat something that is not aligned with that, you know how to evaluate them. So always have a central want. Okay, that's kind of really helps to kind of identify and to stay committed and to strengthen your ability to restrict. Now, last thing is when we talk about elevation, elevating candles, okay, it has two aspects. One aspect is physical, like I'm actually going to have something that is right now on the table and I'm elevating. So the elevation, it happens in relation to space and time, okay? So that's physical aspect. But also there is a spiritual aspect to elevation. It's not a physical attribute. What does it mean? In spirituality or inner terms, up means to lashpia. So I'm saying, when I'm saying to elevate candles, it means I'm elevating my ability to be a force of benevolence. So up means benevolence. Down, it means receiving. So we have up and down. Up means making an impact or being a force of benevolence. Taking down means receiving. So we talk about, when we discuss elevating the candles, I'm elevating my ability to influence, lashpia. Elevating means to lashpia, okay? So that's why we'll learn to elevate all our wants towards the level of benevolence in this reality. It always comes to the force, what force elevate, okay? So now would be a good time to evaluate our wants so we can elevate them, okay? So yeah, okay. So this is what I have here. Now let's go a little bit to do some more Zohar studies. Anybody have questions, comments, observations?
No.
No. Okay. Verse number 5. רבי אבא פתח, אשרי העם יודעי תרועה, אדוני באור פניך יהלכון, היי קרא וכמוה, אבל תחזי, זכאין אינון ישראל, דקודשא בריחו, יהב לון אורייתא קדישה, והוליף לון ארכוי, להתדבקה בי, ולמיתר פיקודי דאורייתא, ונזכה בהו לעלמא דעתי, וקריב להו בשעתה דנפקו ממצרים, דהה כדין אפיקלון מרשותה אחרה, וסליקלון להתאחדה בשמי, וכדי נקרון בני ישראל, בני חורין מקולה, דלה יתבו תחות רשותה אחרה, וסליקלון לאחדה, בשמי, דסליק על קולה, דשליט על עילאין ותתאים. Translation. Rabbi Abba opened the discussion saying, happy are the people that know the joyful note. They shall walk, O Hashem,
Mika, כאן.
O Hashem, in the light of your countenance. This verse has been explained. However, come and behold. Praised are Israel, to whom the Holy One, blessed be He, gave the Holy Torah, and taught His ways to adhere to Him and keep the 10 ordinances of the Torah in order to achieve merit through them in the world to come. And He drew them near when they came out of Egypt, since He withdrew them from another dominion and raised them to unite with His name. Only then Israel are called free people, free men, in every respect, in that they no longer sojourned under someone else's authority. He raised them to unite with His name, which is loftier above all and has dominion over the highest and the lowest. So when we talk about the codenim of Israel, it means aligned, like we said many times in previous classes, it means we're aligned with Source. How we can get closer to Source? By elevating our candles. We elevate our desires. We elevate our desire to receive, so we can be a bigger force of benevolence in this reality. That's what it's about. Okay? So let's continue. Verses number 12 and 13. What we learn here is that let's read the Zohar first, the Aramaic first. רבי אלעזר ורבי יוסף ורבי יצחק הבוא אזלי באורחה, פגעו בעינון טורי קרדו. עד הבוא אזלי זקף עינוי רבי אלעזר וחמי עינון טורי רמאי והבוא חשוכן ודחלן בתחילו. אמר רבי אלעזר לעינון חוויה, אילו אבא הכה להבה דחילנה, אבל כיוון דענן תלתה ומילי דאורייתא ביננה, דינה הכה לה אשתכח. So this verse is teaching us that every word in the Torah, it has many secrets. Even though it may be telling simple story, like we said earlier, there are codes, the Torah demonstrates the highest matters and the utmost secrets. this verse tells us that there is a story of the landing of the ark on Mount Ararat as an example, saying that it is to teach us about a universal truth, which means a time of judgment. Now let's read the translation here. Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yitzchak were going through their way. They reached those mountains of darkness while traveling. Rabbi Elazar raised his eyes and saw those lofty mountains, and they were dark and awesome and frightful. Rabbi Elazar said to his friends, "If my father was here, I would not be frightened. Yet since we are three and are speaking of Torah among us, no judgment will prevail here." Let's go to verse number 13. פתח רבי אלעזר ואמר, כתיב התנ"ך התיבה בחודש השביעי וגומר, על הרי ערערת וגומר, כמה חביבין מילי דאורייתא, בבכל מילה ומילה, אית רזיני לעין ואורייתא קולה, אילאה יקרה, ותנינן בתלסר מחילן דאורייתא. כל דבר שהיה בכלל ויצא מן הכלל ללמד, לא ללמד על עצמו יצא, אלא ללמד על הכלל כולו יצא. דאורייתא דאי היא כללה אילאה, אף על גב דנפיק מינה. חד סיפור בעלמה, ודאי לעתה להתחזאה, על ההוא סיפור, אלא להתחזאה מילין נילאים, ורזין נילאים. ולא ללמד על עצמו יצא, אלא ללמד על הכלל כולו יצא. בגין דהוא סיפור דאורייתא, או ההוא עובדה, אף על גב דהוא נפקה מכללה דאורייתא. לאו להחזאה על גרמי נפק בלבד, אלא להחזאה על ההוא כללה, אילאה דאורייתא, כולה נפק. Translation. Rabbi Elazar opened a discussion with the verse, and the ark rested in the 7th month upon the mountains of Ararat. How beloved are the words of Torah, that each and every word has lofty secrets, and the entire Torah is considered supernal. We learned in Barita of the 13 qualities of the Torah. Whatever is part of the whole, yet it is an exception. It is so in order to teach a general rule, not teach merely about itself. Since the Torah is the highest generality, even though a simple story is an exception to the rule, its function most certainly is not merely to tell us just that story, but rather to demonstrate the highest matters and the utmost secrets. It is not considered as an exception so as to teach about itself, but rather to demonstrate a general rule, since the story of the Torah, or that occurrence, although it stands to itself outside the Torah, did not come to show this alone, but rather came to demonstrate the general law of the entire Torah. So each story, what we learn here of the Torah, is a demonstration that, first of all, nothing to be taken literally. In each one, it gives us a hint of something much, much bigger. So that's, again, it's something that we discussed earlier in this class, that it's a wonderful opportunity if you have some background studying what we know the Torah or the Bible, to understand that there are codes. In other words, if you are not familiar with the codes, it's a good start by forgetting everything that you've been learning about the Bible or the Torah, because nothing is to be taken literally. And once you start to understand those separate terms and code names, you start to reveal a completely different picture. Nevertheless, a beautiful picture of creation. So that's a really wonderful thing to tap into. Let's go to verse number 15. תחזה מלך בב לי קרא דילי הוא להשתאי מילה דהדיותה, כמו שאמר למכתב לי ואיסליג בדעתך, דמלכי לה קודשא בריחו להבוא לי מילין קדישין, למכתב ולמעבד מינהו אורייתא, אלא דאיהו כניש כל מילין דהדיוטין, כגון מילין דעשיו, מילין דהגר, מילין דלבן ביעקב, מילין דאתון, מילין דבלעם, מילין דבלק, מילין דזמרי, וחניש להו, וכל שאר סיפורים דכתיבין, ועבד מינהו אורייתא. Translation. Come and behold, here is a king of flesh and blood. It is no honor for him to have simple talk, and most certainly to write these simple things down. Could you imagine if the exalted king, the Holy One, blessed be he, had no holy things to write about with which to produce the Torah? But he merely gathered all the simplest matters, such as the utterings of Esav, the utterings of Hagar, the utterings of Lavan or Yaakov, the utterings of the mule, the utterings of Bil'am, the utterings of Balak and the utterings of Zimri, and then he gathered them and all the stories that were written and made a Torah out of them. So this verse compared a source creator, that exalted intelligence that created this universe, to a king. So the king wants to tell us some truths about a reality that is far beyond what we perceive with our senses. So the king is writing stories that they represent certain forces, certain dynamics of the forces that operate behind the scenes. So as you can understand here, we're not here to take the stories literally, because these stories, they represent upper realms, and it's good to remind ourselves that what we've been taught until now of the Bible or the Torah is not what it appears to be. Okay, what time is it, Maya?
20 to 10.
Okay, we're gonna end pretty soon. Verse number 60 kind of continue with the same train of thought. ועד היי סיפור דאורייתא לבושה דאורייתא איהו מן דחשיב דההוא לבושה איהו אורייתא ממש ולה מילה אחרה טיפח רוחי ולה יהלי חולקה בעלמא דעתי בגין כך אמר דוד גל עיניי והביטה נפלאות מתורתך מה דתחות לבושה דאורייתא. Therefore, this story of the Torah is the mantle of the Torah. He who thinks that this mantle is the actual essence of the Torah and that nothing else is there, let him breathe his last and let him know have portion in the world to come. Therefore, David said, open my eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of your Torah. That is, look that lies under the garment of the Torah. So like we used the analogy earlier, the Torah is a garment in which supernal secrets are clothed through stories. And it's, again, there's nothing can be more really uplifting of the mind and the spirit to understand what those code names are. It's very superficial to perceive the Torah on just on the stories that we read in the Bible. Okay, so if you're one of those that have been raised on the stories and you have a certain understanding, it's good. This month particularly is a good opportunity to forget all that and to open yourself to something completely new and very, very, very lofty. Yeah. So let's go verse number 96. היי קרא הכי מבעילי, יש מפזר ויוסף עוד, מהי ונוסף? אלא ההוא אתר דשרי בהמיתה. הוא גרים לידי תוסף מחיים גלעלה לאוספה לי. אמר רבי יהודה, אמר רבי חייא, קרא אסהיד דכל מן דיהיב למסכני, יתאר אילנה דחיי, לאוספה לההי אילנה דמותה, וכדי נשתחה חיים וחדו לילה. ובר נש דגרים דה, בשעתה דצטריך לי, ההוא אילנה דחיי קיים עלי, והוא אילנה דמותה אגין עלוי, ובגין כך נוסף עוד. So let me read it a bit from the synopsis for this verse. So what we learn here about those who toil in the splendor called the Zohar, which means splendor in Hebrew, will be wise and shine like the brightness of the firmament. They must teach every secret and teach others how to be receptive to the light of the Torah and to the light of the Zohar. And at that time they will be like a dove that was sent from Noah's ark. So they know that that dove that was sent from Noah's ark is like a sign for people that it's a time for us now to reveal the secrets, that's the time we live in right now. And I would like to read the translation of this verse. He inquires, this verse should have been read this way. There is one who gives freely, and yet it will increase. What is meant by increase? He responds, it is this place where death resides, meaning Malchut. It causes it an increase in life above and draws from there, and increases its life. Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rabbi Chiya, the verse gives evidence that for whoever gives charity to the paupers, the tree of life is awakened, that is the Zeir Anpin, and adds life to the tree of death, which is Malchut. Then there is life and happiness above, in Malchut, and that tree of life stands over the person who caused this. by his giving of the charity in a time of need. That tree of death shields him, and therefore it is proper to say, yet increases. So we'll learn that how we can increase the flow of life into this reality. It's not just by doing good actions and good deeds, but actually sharing this wisdom. Not just can save lives, but we can actually bring so much more life force and sustenance into this reality to make our life more rich, more meaningful, and more exciting, I would say, and also to affect that to other people. So with that, I would like to thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this class, and this video is going to be available on the Mount Shasta Zohar page on Facebook. If you enjoyed the class, you're more than welcome to leave a donation on our Facebook page. Thank you so much, and then see you next week.
Thank you, Baruch.
You're welcome.